Imagine the Europe of the 1930s, a continent alive with bustling markets, children playing in cobblestone streets, families gathering for meals, and communities woven together by traditions passed down through generations. But beneath this vibrant surface, an ominous shadow was forming. In just a few short years, this world would be shattered. Over 6 million Jewish men, women, and children, and millions of others deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime would face unimaginable horrors in what we now call the Holocaust. The Holocaust was not just a story of mass murder, it was a test of humanity's conscience. It revealed the extremes of human cruelty but also showcased unparalleled acts of courage and resilience. This is a history that demands to be remembered, not to dwell on pain, but to honor the lives lost and to ensure its lessons shape our future. Take a moment to step into the past. Picture a world without smartphones or the internet. Radios crackled with the latest news, and airplanes were a modern marvel. People lived lives much like ours, celebrating festivals, dreaming of brighter futures, and raising children. Now, imagine how that seemingly ordinary world unraveled as fear, propaganda, and hatred took hold, transforming neighbors into enemies and cities into battlegrounds of morality. Before the Holocaust, Jewish communities were an integral part of European society. They were doctors, artists, musicians, and shopkeepers. Their holidays, like Passover and Hanukkah, were celebrated with warmth, family, and rich traditions passed down through generations. But beneath the surface of this everyday life, a dangerous prejudice simmered. Anti-Semitism, hatred against Jewish people, had deep roots in Europe. It was fueled by myths and lies, such as the false accusation that Jews controlled global finances or were responsible for societal problems. These beliefs led to centuries of discrimination. In many countries, Jewish people were denied basic rights, forbidden from voting, owning land, or holding certain jobs. When World War I ended in 1918, Germany was left humiliated and economically crippled. Unemployment and poverty surged, and people were desperate for answers. In this climate of despair, Adolf Hitler and his Nazi party found fertile ground for their message of hate. Hitler, a charismatic but deeply hateful leader, blamed Germany's troubles on Jewish people and other minorities. By 1933, he had risen to power, becoming Chancellor of Germany. The Nazis used propaganda, a powerful mix of posters, speeches, and media, to spread their poisonous ideology. These messages labeled Jews as enemies of the state, poisoning public perception. Imagine hearing these lies repeated daily in schools, on the radio, and in newspapers. Over time, even absurd falsehoods began to feel like truth. Words, we must remember, have immense power. By the mid-1930s, Jewish families across Germany and Europe began to see their lives change drastically. The Nuremberg Laws, introduced in 1935, stripped Jewish people of their citizenship, banned marriages between Jews and non-Jews, and removed their basic rights. In 1938, the world witnessed a horrifying escalation. During Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, Nazi mobs attacked Jewish homes, businesses, and synagogues. Fires burned across cities, and shattered glass littered the streets. Over 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and sent to concentration camps. For Jewish families, everyday life became a minefield. Imagine being a child during this time, one day attending school, the next being told you're no longer welcome. Imagine seeing your parents' business shut down, signs in shop windows declaring, "No Jews allowed," and neighbors you once trusted, refusing to look you in the eye. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and life for Jewish families took an even darker turn. The Nazis forced Jewish communities into ghettos, walled off sections of cities where overcrowding, hunger, and disease were rampant. Families lived in cramped apartments with little food or heat. Despite these harsh conditions, many clung to hope. Secret schools emerged within the ghettos, where children risked their lives to learn. Parents told stories by candlelight, and communities found ways to celebrate holidays quietly. These small acts of defiance kept the flame of humanity alive. In 1941, the Nazis began implementing their final solution, a plan to exterminate the Jewish people. They established a network of concentration camps and extermination camps, places designed for torture and mass murder. Families were torn apart as they were forced onto trains, often unaware of their destination. At the camps, people faced unspeakable horrors. They were stripped of their belongings, their identities reduced to numbers tattooed on their arms. Many were sent directly to gas chambers, while others were subjected to forced labor, starvation, and brutal experiments. But even in these bleak conditions, humanity endured. Esther, a teacher in one camp, secretly gathered children to teach them the alphabet, giving them a sense of normalcy. Miriam, a young woman, wrote poetry about freedom and buried her verses in the soil, hoping they would one day be found. Small gestures, a piece of bread shared, a song hummed in the darkness, or a whispered word of hope, became acts of resistance. These stories remind us that even in the darkest moments, kindness and courage can survive. Pause for reflection. Imagine the strength it took to hold on to hope in such a place. Would you have the courage to fight for your humanity? Not everyone stood by during the Holocaust. Across Europe, individuals and groups risked their lives to resist the Nazis and save others. In Denmark, the entire Jewish population was nearly saved thanks to the resistance. When the Nazis planned to deport Danish Jews, citizens worked together to smuggle families to Sweden using fishing boats. In Poland, the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising of 1943 saw Jewish fighters resist the Nazis with homemade weapons. Though the uprising was ultimately crushed, it remains a powerful symbol of defiance. Then there were individuals like Irina Sendler, who smuggled over 2,500 Jewish children out of the Warsaw Ghetto, hiding them in suitcases and baskets. Or Oskar Schindler, who used his factory to protect over 1,000 Jewish workers. These stories remind us that even in times of great fear, bravery can shine through. In 1945, Allied forces liberated the concentration camps, uncovering the full scale of Nazi atrocities. For survivors, freedom was bittersweet, a moment of relief but also unimaginable loss. Rebuilding their lives was a monumental challenge. Many survivors emigrated to new countries, starting over in unfamiliar lands. Despite their trauma, many became educators, writers, and activists, sharing their stories to ensure the world would never forget. The Holocaust led to the creation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, a document that pledged to protect the dignity of all people. It was a direct response to the horrors witnessed during the war, a promise that such atrocities would never happen again. Pause for thought. Imagine the strength it took to rebuild after losing everything. Survivors remind us that even after the darkest night, a new dawn is possible. The Holocaust is a painful chapter in human history, but it also shows us the power of resilience, compassion, and bravery. By remembering these stories, we honor the victims and commit to building a world where hate has no place. What can you do to stand against hate? How can you bring kindness into the world around you? Each small action, a kind word, a stand against injustice, creates ripples of change. Let's carry these lessons forward. The power to create a better world lies within each of us.